Have you been in a situation in life where your back is against the wall? On top of that, you just found out something that will permanently change your life's outlook. While all that is going on, you don't have much time to process what's going on because you have to focus on what you're supposed to do in life. Before I share my self-acceptance story, I want to invite you to my childhood in Hong Kong. I didn't know how to speak until I was 3. I had to wear pre-tied neckties throughout primary school because I still couldn't tie a necktie to save my life. I was unable to tie my shoelaces independently until 3rd grade. I couldn't ride a regular bicycle. A couple of my primary school teachers noted that I had poor eye contact. I struggled to play with my peers. However, I also won 3 consecutive citizenship awards in primary school for best behavior. Moreover, I was above average in academics during that time. Because my parents and teachers were more concerned about academic performance and classroom behaviors as a student, they perceived me as a smart and introverted child. However, they actually missed critical signs that I struggled with social skills and executive function. If I had not received my professional training in occupational therapy, I would have missed them in my parents' shoes too. Now, I want to invite you to June 2008. At that time, I was already a year out from finishing my undergrad degree in statistics. While I got 24 job interviews, I didn't land any job offers after each of them. My parents were fed up with the lack of direction for my career. They told me, "Bill, find a job or you need to start considering graduate school. You can't be sitting around doing nothing." This was the 3rd time I heard it from my parents. I just said to them, "Fine, let's find out what I can get into for graduate school." Long story short, my mom and I eventually decided I should go into occupational therapy school. When we wanted to hear more about what the experience was about, we signed up to attend a 2-hour prospective student orientation at University of Southern California. But because neither my parents nor I have a wide driving radius, my mom and I tried to get there by bus. We ended up showing an hour late. The part we ended up hearing was about research opportunities. Since I have an undergrad degree in statistics, my mom and I thought it would be a great niche for me. So I decided to make up a year's worth of prerequisite classes and study for the GRE exam. I ended up getting accepted to University of Southern California's entry-level Master of Occupational Therapy program. This story of how I come to occupational therapy profession became an interesting one in my profession because it wouldn't have been a love at first sight moment if my mom and I came to that orientation on time. Then, after I completed the required readings for my pediatric class in November 2009, I had a hunch that I was autistic. So I brought it up to my parents. Their response, they said, "You are in occupational therapy school of all places. You must be overthinking things because you never needed any accommodations to help you succeed in school. If we still felt that you were autistic after we brought you to a pediatrician at age 4, we would have sought a second opinion. We also wouldn't think you would have been a good match for occupational therapy school anyway." In July 2010, I failed my first clinical rotation. A month later, I found out that I'm autistic. The timing of my diagnosis can't be more awful. It was 3 days before I began my 2nd year of occupational therapy school. The timing couldn't be any worse. I didn't know how to face my classmates. Many will be overjoyed that they were one step closer to their dream careers and excited to see their friends after 3 months of not seeing one another. While I knew many of my classmates were nice, I didn't want any of them to say to me, "What you said just ruined the mood of my day. Gee, thanks." Fast forward to June 2012, I was almost on my way to be eligible to take my national board exam. Knowing I'm about to cross my first finish line, I decided to find a mentor. Her name was Terry Olivas de la O. She was well-connected and known for being a warm and passionate person. A year later, I obtained my clinical doctorate degree. But when I finished the degree, that was when I truly needed Terry. My first job in pediatrics lasted 3 months. I struggled with the transition from being a student to a clinician. Keeping a job was much harder than I anticipated, even though I was aware that the difficulties in transitioning from a student clinician to a professional clinician is a thing. From increased expectations and responsibilities, to having to build relationships with coworkers, support workers, families, and patients, to seeing my weaknesses being exposed, to getting burned out and frustrated about my poor job performance. After I left my first job, I tried my hand in private practice. I didn't do any homework on my target clientele, as well as how I could earn money for my clinical services. I didn't know whom or where I should network for potential clients. For 8 months, I pretty much made no money. Around the same time, Terry's health deteriorated quickly. She ended up passing away in January 2014. Somehow though, I'm able to turn this double whammy with my life and career into an opportunity for self-empowerment. Losing Terry was difficult. I spent 2 months looking for a replacement before trying to get my career back on track. I ended up finding 3 mentors. Once I found them, they all told me, "We will maximize your professional potential, but we also want you to honor Terry and continue her legacy because we know how awesome she was." That is what I needed to hear to begin my self-empowerment journey. In June 2014, when I came back from Japan for a vacation, I decided to close my private practice for good and look for paycheck-to-paycheck jobs again. At first, I tried pediatrics again because that was where I had my first job experience. But when I failed to get any job offers for a month, one of my friends asked me, "Will you be willing to try a nursing home setting?" I wondered, why? I had no clinical experience in this area. They said, "If you feel you need more time to understand how things work, you can work part-time first. If you feel you're okay with it and you're ready for full-time later, keep an eye for a full-time opportunity then. This is a good way to build your confidence slowly, since you felt that you took on too much too quickly for your first job." Sure enough, they were right. I got a job in the nursing home setting and approached the situation with an open mind. I spent a year and a half to build my confidence to become a full-time worker. Fast forward to today. I have worked at my current full-time job for 8 years. I also have a part-time seasonal job on the side for 4 years. On top of that, I'm able to get opportunities to advance my career. While my parents fully expected this when I grew up, I have to acknowledge that many caregivers of autistic adults would dream of what I've accomplished since 2014. After all, according to the most recent estimates from my disabilities jobs, over 38% of autistic adults were unemployed. Moreover, 79% of working autistic adults work part-time. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, self-acceptance is a state of accepting oneself, the act or state of understanding and recognizing one's own abilities and limitations. Meanwhile, self-empowerment means taking control of our own life, setting goals, and making positive choices. In the disability community's context, self-acceptance is a crucial precursor to self-empowerment, because if the individuals don't come to terms with the disabilities, how can they meet the objectives of self-empowerment? Of course, how do individuals from different disability communities reach the point of self-acceptance? A common denominator is that each such individual must go through a stages of grief model developed by a psychiatrist named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. The 5 stages include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. There is no timeline on how quickly someone reaches self-acceptance. Also, the journey to self-acceptance is not necessarily a straight line. Meanwhile, a 2021 Psychiatric Rehabilitation Journal article stated that a strong support system is a crucial component for mental health recovery. In the context of individuals from disability communities coming to terms with their diagnosis, strong support systems are vital to help them to cross the bridge between self-acceptance and self-empowerment. Since we are in a digital era though, this may also include online communities. In the context of autism, this can mean Facebook support groups and pages, or the actually autistic hashtag on Twitter, to name a couple. In my case, I went straight into the depression phase. Part of it is because I wanted to put a name to my clinical rotation struggles. Part of it was because I got to understand what autism can entail more in depth than many other autistic individuals seeking the possible autism diagnoses. That said, before finding out my autism diagnoses, I wish that my emerging instincts as a future occupational therapy practitioner was wrong. When I eventually disclosed to my classmates a week after I found out my diagnosis, they were shocked. But once they got over the news, I think my nice guy persona brought me a lot of sympathy. Many of them told me, what you face now is just an obstacle. Don't focus so much on not being able to cross the finish line the same time as many of us. Just focus on crossing that line. You're the most resilient person on our cohort. We'll root for you. Simply put, I was able to reach self-acceptance relatively quickly because I have a strong support system. Speaking of support system, there are 2 questions people will ask. Why do we need one? How can we build one? To explain what a support system is, I'll use baseball as an analogy, since it is one of my favorite sports to watch. Imagine you're a starting pitcher. Your main objective is to help your team win ball games, right? However, how do you win your starts? Sure, you got to pitch to the best of your abilities when you're out there, but you won't get wins if your team doesn't score runs for you. In that situation, you're probably pressed to make perfect pitches because any mistake you make could mean a loss. Conversely, if you pitch for a team that scores lots of runs for you, you'll feel more relaxed because you know that minor mistakes won't kill your team's chances to win. The same principles apply in life. If you have quality people supporting your journey, you're more likely to succeed in life. In terms of how you build support systems, that can be a struggle for some folks with disabilities. So start from people around you. This can be your family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, etc. And in the context of disability communities though, finding people with similar lived experiences can be beneficial, according to a Journal of Technology and Behavioral Science article in 2019. What kind of benefits, you may ask? It can be a sense of relief that they are not alone in their journeys. It can be opportunities to exchange ideas on how to deal with life's challenges. It can be mentorship from someone who is further along in their professional journey, to someone who just found out their disabilities. It can be a combination of any of these things. Ultimately, that is how self-empowerment can be reached. The million-dollar question is, what can each of us do? 1. Learn about what ableism is. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, ableism is defined as discrimination or prejudice against individuals with disabilities. Learn about ways to avoid such behaviors. This is crucial for individuals with disabilities to reach self-acceptance. 2. In order to reach self-empowerment, a strong support system is critical. A strong support system can provide positive reinforcement when positive choices are made. 3. If you know someone who's going through difficulties in life right now, be patient and understanding about the circumstances. Mental health recovery can have many ups and downs. Being there for our friends who need us the most can be oftentimes be more helpful than telling them to just say, get over it. 4. If you are a parent of children with disabilities, get to know how they can function optimally. My parents used to be concerned when I didn't speak much to them when I got home after a day of work or school. But now that I educate them about the needs of self-care, whenever I get home from a long day of school or work after my diagnosis, they knew that I'm taking care of my mental health so that I'm ready to work the next day.
你今天所听的就是我的故事。我的家人和朋友帮助我达到自我赋权，但是我们这社区有一股不权的风气，我们需要正当的利用我们的金钱、权利和知识去帮助我们没有那么好的人，因为他们也可以达到自我赋权，他们可以帮到更多的人。谢谢。